Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. Today we're going to view a presentation on the effects of positive reinforcement on young children. First, a little bit about myself. My name is Jennifer. I am currently a preschool teacher at the Goddard School in Wall, New Jersey. I am also an early childhood teaching candidate pursuing my preschool through 3rd grade endorsement at Monmouth University. I possess my Bachelor's of the Arts in Psychology from Rutgers, New Jersey. And I also put up here that I had a former position as a behavioral assistant. I put this up here because I'll be referencing this a few times throughout the presentation. Behavioral assistant basically was providing in-home therapeutic care to children and adolescents facing behavioral challenges. So a lot of you guys know each other, but first we have here Kathy. She's a mother of 2 children, ages 5 and 7. Her daughter is 5, her son is 7. Nicole is a mother of 3. Her children are ages 3, 5, and 6. And Anthony's a father of 2. His sons are ages 7 and 8. So now that we all know each other, let's get started. Our agenda today, I'll pass this out for you guys to have. We're going to have a topic introduction. The topic is positive reinforcement, so we're going to introduce what that is. We're going to have 2 vignettes of just 2 children who I have had the pleasure of working with and showing how positive reinforcement has definitely changed their behavior. We have 2 very short videos that we will be viewing. Then we will be talking about the application in schools as well as the application at home. I will be inviting you to take part in this program and implement it in your own home. And then I will ask if you have any questions. So raise your hand if you've ever heard of positive reinforcement. Alright, Nicole, what have you heard about it?
It's basically reinforcing kids with, rather than yelling at them, you would do something positive when they do something correct instead of bad behavior would get something negative.
Correct. So basically what I have here, a reward that reliably follows a behavior and increases the likelihood that the behavior will be repeated. Or in other words, positive reinforcement is a technique used by parents and caregivers to modify their children's behavior by reinforcing desired behaviors. So basically, you see your child cleaning up nicely. Great job, Nicole. Excellent. I'm so happy you were cleaning up. Something as simple as that. To put it simply, positive reinforcement is the practice of rewarding positive behaviors to increase the frequency of those behaviors. Positive reinforcement can and should be used by parents, caretakers, and teachers. And again, it's focusing on the desired behavior rather than the undesired behavior. And another thing I want to point out, throughout the presentation, you will see little codes here, or NAEYC standards. There's also New Jersey Preschool Teaching and Learning Expectations, you will notice. Those are just things that we link as educators back to the standards for the state and the National Association of the Education of Young Children. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask Nicole a question again. All I want you to do, Nicole, whatever you do, think of anything in your mind. Think about what you're doing later on, what you did this weekend. Just don't think about this cute little pink elephant, the big ears and the wings. Don't think of that, okay? Think of anything else but.
Okay.
What are you thinking of?
Pink elephant.
Exactly. So you're telling someone not to do something and they're going to think of it. If I tell Craig, please stop doing that, he's going to just think about doing it, whatever that thing is. So this leads us into focusing on the positive. Some of the things I use in my pre-K class I'm currently in. I love how you help Ava clean up without being asked to do so. Here's a sticker because I'm so proud of you. I make sure to have stickers handy at all times because this works like a charm with my kids. I see a kid help clean up. Here's a sticker. That was an awesome job. Great, you're being so nice, you're helping out your friends. I don't go up to them and say, well, how come you didn't clean up like John did? Okay? That's not something a child wants to hear. It's not something anyone wants to hear. You're degrading them. It's just not positive. Another one. Look at how hard you are working on that. Keep up the good work. I'm very happy seeing you so focused. Rather than you are the only one not doing their work. So it's just the way your tone of voice is, where you're complimenting a child instead of putting them down. Another example. Hey Craig, remember when we were walking inside and you used your walking feet and inside voice? Can we try that again, please? It really made me very happy. Something I use all the time with my kids. We're coming in from outside, they're rowdy, they just want to go inside, have lunch. I'll say something about what they did earlier. And I'll say, you did this so nicely earlier, can we do it again? And they'll get a smile on their face because you're complimenting them, and they are more likely to do what you're asking them to do. So where does this all come from? The father of operant conditioning, which is a broad term for behavioralism, or type of behavioralism I should say, including positive reinforcement, was created by B.F. Skinner. He believed that everything we do in life, every act, is an operant response influenced by the outcomes of past behavior. For example, you go to work, you're working for a paycheck. You're not getting paid, you're not going to continue to work. So that's influencing your behavior to keep on going to work. You're getting that paycheck. So this type of positive reinforcement that we're talking about isn't just applicable for children, it's applicable for anyone, but since we're all parents here talking about our children, we're going to be focusing on it in children. So we have here operant conditioning. It's a part of behavioralism, which is a part of learning theory, which is within psychology. Operant conditioning is basically the umbrella term used to describe behavior modification techniques. There are three different things we'll be talking about: reinforcement, punishment, and extinction. Reinforcement. Consequence that results, on average, in an increase in a behavior in a particular situation. We have both positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, which can get a little confusing, but we're going to break it down. Positive reinforcement increases the frequency of a behavior by providing a positive consequence. So just like I was talking about before, giving praises, rewards, etc. Negative reinforcement, it still increases the frequency of a behavior, but by removing or stopping an aversive stimulus. So you put on your seatbelt in the car, you're putting it on to stop the seatbelt alarm from going off. That's something annoying, and that seatbelt alarm is negatively reinforcing you to put on your seatbelt. So again, it's increasing the likelihood of you using your seatbelt, but by removing an aversive stimulus. On the other hand, we have punishment. Punishment is a consequence that results, on average, in a decrease in a behavior in a particular situation. So positive punishment, we have both positive and negative. Positive punishment decreases frequency of the behavior by providing an aversive consequence. Say you're late for work, you're speeding, you're trying to get to work on time, it's just an awful morning, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, you know the deal. You get a speeding ticket. So that is a positive punishment. You are less likely to continue to speed to work when you're running late because you had an aversive consequence, which is a speeding ticket. Negative punishment decreases the frequency of a behavior still, but by removing or stopping a positive stimulus. So like telling a teenager they're grounded or taking away privileges, so you're decreasing the frequency of a behavior by basically removing something that they like. So reinforces strengthened responses and punishment weakened responses. So is reinforcement or punishment more effective? What psychologists have learned is that in promoting learning, punishment is far less effective than reinforcement. The last thing about operant conditioning I want to discuss is extinction. This is the reduction in likelihood of a behavior because reinforcement is no longer provided. There's a study by Pavlov who had classical conditioning with dogs and bells and food. Basically what he did was every time a dog heard a bell, he received food. Eventually the dog started to salivate at the sound of the bell without the food presentation because the dog expected food. After the bell and food were no longer provided, eventually the dog stopped salivating because there was no food coming. So it makes sense, you know, if the two stimulus aren't provided at the same time, the dog is going to stop having that response. There is something called an extinction burst, which is very important to talk about. It's a temporary increase in frequency and or intensity of behavior whose reinforcement is withdrawn. So let's say we're at a candy store, or say we're at a grocery store and I'm working the cashier. I see you come in and I see your child decides that he wants a piece of candy that's at the checkout counter. And you don't want him to have it, he's already hyper, you don't want any more sugar, but he just won't let go. And he's screaming, and he's having a little bit of a tantrum, and you're like, all right, you know what, fine, just take it, I don't care. And let's be real, you guys are humans. So basically, what this child learned is that, if I scream and have a tantrum in front of all these people, mommy's gonna get me that candy bar. And I see this happen for a few times, every time you come in. Then I don't see you for a few weeks. And suddenly I am completely surprised because I see you and your kid's not screaming. And it's really weird because I expect this child to scream. Then I see you a couple weeks down the line and he tries that one more time. He tries screaming again. As long as you remain consistent and you don't give in to that, that extinction burst will occur of him screaming one more time. But as long as you remain consistent, it will go away. So this is basically, again, spontaneous recovery. It's the sudden recurrence of behavior after it has been extinct, short-lived as long as it's consistent. This little graph I found here. So this is the initial behavior. So the kid kicking, screaming, crying, tantrum at the store. Extinction burst right here. So we're about to get the candy, or he expects he's going to get the candy. It's not happening. There's a bigger tantrum. Parent stops the giving in, and the behaviors go down. All of a sudden, extinction occurs. We come down here. The child, this is where I'm at the grocery store. I don't see your child arguing over candy. All of a sudden, that 1 week, he decides to test you a little bit. Then, as long as you remain consistent, he'll right back down. So this happens, this spontaneous recovery, and people think, oh, well, this didn't work. He's just back to his old behaviors. Just remain consistent, and it will dissipate. So the first thing I want to talk about is a child here. I used a false name just to maintain his confidentiality. This is a boy I worked with at my part-time job as a behavioral assistant. His name, what we're going to say, is Anthony. He was 11 years old. He had a diagnosis of oppositional defiant disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and many people have decided that he could have been on the autism spectrum, but they weren't entirely sure. It was kind of like iffy. They didn't really know where he fell. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter as long as he's getting the help that he needs. He was receiving in-home therapy by myself as well as a clinical therapist. So the clinical therapist would implement a plan. I would reinforce the plan with the family. We've tried numerous plans with this child for having good days. Now, part of his behaviors, he had oppositional defiant disorder, and what that means is basically he refuses to accept any form of authority whatsoever. So you tell him to do something, he just won't do it. He'll scream, he'll curse, he'll do anything in his power to avoid listening to authority. There were plenty of times he became violent in the home. He also had a younger brother, which posed a big safety issue because they would get into really bad physical fights. He threw a brick at his mother once because she told him to do something, like very intense behaviors. Now this is a very intense case, but I wanted to talk about it because it shows how positive reinforcement can really work for young children as well as children with all these different types of behavioral needs. So after we tried these rewards of like, oh, he'll get a DVD or something if he has a few days that are good, or he'll get this if he has something else, you know, he didn't really care. He didn't want them anymore. What he really loved was money. He absolutely loved money, and his mom just decided one day, she goes, you know what? Let's change the reward that he's getting to money. So if he had a good day, from morning to night, the next morning, he would receive $3. That's only if he had an entirely good day, no bad behaviors whatsoever. If he began to act up, mom would say, this is your warning, and if you continue, you're not getting your reward tomorrow. So he would get $3 the next day, and he would get a bonus if he had 5 days in a row that were very good. So he would get an extra $5 on the 5th day that he had a good day. Now, one thing that we know is this actually started to work very well with him because the kid loved having money. It was his way of controlling things. He can go out, buy his own things. Well, one day, I think it was Memorial Day weekend, he had a lemonade stand, and they live a block away from the beach. At this lemonade stand, he made $70, which to an 11-year-old is a lot of money. And he didn't really think, like, oh, I could save up and have more money. He's 11. It wasn't there. And he said to me at one point, he goes, well, I don't care. I have $70. I don't need her money. Those were his exact words. So he didn't care about having good days. He did whatever he wanted because he had all this money. And he was able to purchase what he wanted to purchase. So the moral of the story is you have to make the reinforcer more worthy than what he already has. In this case, we realized, okay, well, this reinforcer is not working right now. So let's say, Saturday night comes along. You know what, Anthony, if you have a good day, you can stay out an hour later with your friends Saturday night. That was something he did not have. And if he had a good day, he could obtain that. So that made the reinforcer worthy to him. Because right now, at the time, the money just wasn't working. So positive reinforcement, this really worked well with this child. He's been through dozens of therapists. He went, into the hospital before. He had so many different things going on. But the biggest issue that I had as a behavioral assistant and the therapist was having the parent remain consistent. Now, the only other thing with this was he didn't receive immediate reinforcement. He would receive reinforcement the next morning. So sometimes mom would say to him, you know what, Anthony, you're doing a great job. I have a feeling you're going to get your money tomorrow. So that was something that provided the immediate reinforcement, was just that verbal praise that he was doing a very good job. And that seemed to work very well with him. The next study, this little boy I have the pleasure of working with right now this summer. He is in my pre-K summer camp that I'm teaching. We're going to say his name is Aiden. He's 4 years old. He currently has a diagnosis of obsessive compulsive disorder, and he's currently being screened for ADHD. Basically, this little boy, he can be the sweetest child you'll ever meet. He'll snuggle you, he'll be just adorable. With his obsessive compulsive disorder, he will take something, like he's building something, and if someone comes and knocks it over, he will have it completely flip out on them. He'll scream at them, he'll throw a block, he'll do whatever he has to do. You cannot help him clean up because he has to clean up all on his own. If you try to help him clean up, he will have a tantrum. In regards to the possible ADHD, basically if he's not constantly stimulated, he'll stimulate himself. So if I'm sitting down trying to have circle time with all the other kids, he'll just start doing tumbles, or he'll play with a bookshelf, he'll do whatever he has to do in order to stay stimulated. He also, with other children, which becomes a big issue, is he'll start spinning. He'll throw things, and he'll lick things. Like he licks the table, he'll just lick the chairs. He does a lot of things. I know. He does a lot of things. They're just kind of, you question, like, what are you doing? But at the same time, you just want to scream at him and saying, stop licking the table, what are you doing? But, at times like that, we'll pull him aside, like, you know what, you were sitting so nicely earlier. You weren't licking the table. If you lick the table, you might get some germs, and you could get sick, and we really want you to stay healthy. So why don't we sit like we were doing before? And it works with him. He really does listen to you if you talk to him one-on-one. I have seen other teachers with him start yelling at him, and it just doesn't work. He'll just stare. He'll just stare right through you and smile while you're screaming at him, and then continue playing. Like, it just does not work. But if you get on his level, you talk to him as you would to another person, and you're not degrading him, and you're talking to him, providing a compliment, it really does work. Now, his parents implemented a sticker chart at home. Basically, again, if he has a good day, his parents put a sticker on his chart for that day. It has to be an entirely good day, and like the other child we just discussed, he will receive one warning, and if he does it again, he does not get a sticker. With his sticker chart, if he got 30 stickers, he was able to go to Hershey Park. His little sister, who is 3 years old, had a lot more to work towards. She doesn't have any diagnoses, but she does live with her older brother, who has a lot of behavioral things going on, and she sees what he does, so I believe she's learning from him, but then again, it could be wrong. But her sticker chart is if she gets 30 days in a row, she gets to go to Disney World, so she has a lot more to work towards. Again, with him though, the reinforcer isn't until the end of the day. So I will, in school, sometimes say to him, you know, Aiden, we're doing such a great job today, I really feel like you're getting your sticker today. Sometimes I will even tell him, oh, you know what, here you go, I'm going to give you a sticker to remind you that if you keep making good choices, you'll get your sticker tonight. And that works a good charm. Now, let's say he's having a bad day and he's, doing something like hitting his lunchbox against a shelf, which is something he loves to do. I'll look at him and I'll say, don't you want your sticker today? Let's make some good choices, okay? Like, yeah, I want my sticker. And then he'll go accept his lunch. And it's amazing because I just started working with him in June. I had him in my class. he was in the classroom again with another teacher this past school year, and he was constantly being sent to the office, constantly being yelled at. And his mom did report to me just the other day that, you know, he seems to be doing much better. He's not being reprimanded as much. He isn't being sent to the office as much, and she was asking me what I'm doing with him. And I don't really know what the other teacher was doing because I was not in the class, but as I said, I have seen people yelling at him, and it just doesn't work. So I just told her, you know, I speak to him like a person. I get on his level. We talk about something good all the time. Even if he's doing something, like he's hitting someone else, I'll say, remember when you were playing with Tommy so nicely? Let's do that again. And we have to make sure we apologize, and he'll go off with that. It's great. So those were just two little studies that I wanted to talk about that I've had the experience of working with in my life. I have two very short videos. Just see here. The first video was actually filmed by the Rainbow Academy. It talks about positive reinforcement in school. It's only about 2 minutes long. So we're going to take a look about how we use positive reinforcement in preschools.
Jennifer here from Rainbow Academy Early Learning Centers with some tips on positive reinforcement. If I told you, don't think of a pink elephant. More than likely, the first thing that just popped into your mind was a pink elephant. Getting preschool children to behave the way in which you want is as easy as speaking their language, using praise and approval as opposed to no's and don'ts. Preschool children typically want just to please adults. They're looking for approval and definitely appreciation. So here are some tips on some positive reinforcement skills. What are the behaviors that you approve of and want repeated or duplicated by other children? Jack, good job saying Christy on time as well. Very nice, Jack. I love this. This makes me so happy. Make sure that you use specific names and point out the actual behavior, how it makes you feel. Yeah, wonderful job. Love it. And you, Shara. Good job, Gavin. So nice. Praising others as they begin to prove to you that they are capable of pleasing you will help boost their self-esteem. Now these tips are applicable to any action that you would like repeated, such as cleanup time. Get ready to clean up. Your books away, Jack. Put your book away first nicely on the shelf. Stand up and we're going to line up. Great job. Anushka, you do the same thing as Jack. Very nice, Jack. Oh, excellent job, Anushka. Yeah, and you too. You can see that each child wants to be praised and waits for their own personal praise by Miss Tiffany when putting the book away and lining up. So remember, children between ages 2.5 and 5 years of age really look to adults for improving on. Paying attention to positive behaviors will help diminish behaviors that are unwanted and really help boost a child's self-esteem. For more tips, please visit rainbowacademy.com.
So that here is a Rainbow Academy. They discussed the preschool room, and they showed how positive reinforcement works. I do that all the time with my pre-K class. The child who I just spoke about, the 4-year-old who has the behavioral challenges, if I say, Ava's sitting so nicely, I'm so proud of you, the other children will hear it, and then they'll start to sit nicely too. I have to make sure I praise them each individually by their name, because if you don't, they'll say, but Miss Jen, I was sitting nicely too. So they will call you out on it. The child with the behavioral challenges though, you can say, oh, you're sitting so nicely, he's sitting so nicely, and he'll stare at you and he'll continue doing tumbles on the floor and just stare and smile. But what I have learned is that I have to change it up for him, and I'll say, Aiden, why don't we sit nicely just like everyone else is? Can we do that? We'll have a good day. And that's his reminder of positive reinforcement, which tends to work with him. The second video is only got 2 minutes. We're going to take a look. This is a mother talking about how to implement positive reinforcement at home.
Praise is a very important part of helping children to develop self-esteem, to feel good about their accomplishments, and to feel encouraged to continue to try. One of the things that you want to be aware of when you're praising your child is to try to be as specific as possible. That's going to be really helpful because it's going to help your child understand what types of things you're noticing. And what you want to avoid is very kind of overdoing it with the praise. Because although praise is a very positive thing for children to experience, studies have actually shown that children that are getting generic, overabundance of praise, just pretty much praise all the time, tend to focus more on getting the praise than the actual process of whatever project or activity that they're involved in. So basically what that means is that they may be less likely to try things that they don't feel that they're confident they're going to get a good outcome in, because they're focused on what you're going to say about it. So an example of, just being able to give very specific and genuine praise. Bailey's working pretty hard here on a picture. Looks like, Bailey, you're drawing outer space there. And I'd say, wow, there's a lot of stars there. I can tell that you've really been working on making stars, because I think you just learned that not that long ago, didn't you? Okay. And then the rocket is in the middle of the stars. And then what's this over here? You've got a moon. Okay. Okay. So it looks like you've done a couple tracings over here. So as you can see, I'm pointing out, I'm talking about specifics of Bailey's drawing. I'm not just saying, oh, Bailey, what a wonderful picture. If there are certain things that I have questions about, I'll ask him. So again, with the praise, you want to be specific, you want to be sincere, it has to be genuine, and you want to moderate it so that you're not just praising everything indiscriminately. This is going to help your child to feel good about themselves, but also to be able to not become so focused on actually just giving the praise. Also focus on the fact that they're making effort. That's important.
So this mother here was talking about how to use positive reinforcement with her child. Now, she mentioned being very specific and also not having the child not focused on just getting the praise. So instead of saying, Ashley, you did such a great job, I'm so proud of you, you're so smart. You keep on telling a kid that they're smart, that they can do things, they're not going to try as much as they would if you were to say, Ashley, you're working so hard right now, I'm very proud of you. You continue to stay focused. You're doing such a great job. You're wonderful. I'm so happy to see how focused you are in this assignment. You're talking to them and you're complimenting their behavior rather than the outcome. If you keep on complimenting the outcome and you only praise the outcome, they're not going to take it in as well as if you were to praise their efforts. So some more things about school. Instead of using don't run, no yelling, and don't hit, we'll say things, walking feet please, inside voices, and keep your hands to yourself. That way they're thinking about walking feet and inside voices rather than telling them not to do something. I'll say something like, Ella can be the line leader because she earned it by sitting so nicely during circle time. And what I also did in my classroom, instead of doing like a big behavioral chart that some teachers end up doing, I do personalized sticker charts. So I did this because I don't want a big behavioral chart and have all the parents see, oh, well, so-and-so earned 5 stickers this week, but this one didn't earn any. I think it's very stigmatizing. I don't think parents really appreciate it. But more importantly, I don't think that the kids benefit from seeing everyone else's stickers, and then they'll see, oh, well, she earned all those and I have nothing. So, and I know they're only 4, but still, they still internalize it. So I'll do personalized sticker charts in their own private folders that I hold on to myself, and I'll pull it out, but you know what, you had an excellent day today, you get a sticker. And I'll show them in private, and I won't make a big deal of it in front of the class. Now, if it's something that they're doing nicely that I want the other kids to do, I'll call it out, be like, oh, you know what, Calvin is sitting so nicely right now, here's a sticker. And that way the other kids will adjust to it as well. But with their personalized sticker charts, I do that one-on-one with them. So things we can do at home. Basically what we can do is that you can implement in your own home a chart if you would like to. Either you can do tasks or by the day. So by the day would be something like I do in school, or like what my first child I talked about did at home by having a daily chart. So you can do stickers, behavior bucks, so like using Monopoly money or something like that as a reward, check marks, smiley faces, etc. Anything you'd really like to do with them. Again, every child is different, so you have to see what really works for them. If you're doing behavior bucks, like Monopoly money, and the kid doesn't care about money, doesn't know anything about it, maybe sticker's the best way to go. Maybe something as simple as a check mark, okay? Something that works for your child. Some reinforcers when you see good behavior. genuine verbal praise. I'm so proud of you. Even something as simple as a hug. You know, come here, you did an awesome job, I'm so happy. Something like, since you cleaned your room, you can invite Josh over to play. So that's providing a reinforcement because they did something that you had hoped they would do. Maybe, you know what, you can stay up 5 minutes later tonight because you were listening very nicely and you were not arguing with your sister. Or maybe you can offer a small toy. It's really